Hey everyone, I'm Pastor Jay and welcome to Simple Church Online. Whether you missed last Sunday, you're checking us out for the first time, or maybe even watching out of state, we're so glad that you're a part of our community. And we're praying today that as you watch, God would use this to bless your life. Enjoy the message. Amen. You guys can be seated today, and let me just say to all the moms, happy Mother's Day. And just be honest with you today, this is a difficult day for me. As most of you know, last year we lost my mom, and so this is my first Mother's Day without her. And I'll just be up front with you. I might get emotional today, and I'm at a place in my life where that's okay. And let the emotions be what they are. And I pray to God, whatever the emotions need to be today, that's fine. And that's not easy for me, but I know I'm with my family, so it doesn't matter, right? You guys are my family. And I'll just be honest, I keep saying that. I'm always honest. I don't know why I sound like I'm being honest, but I was just ministered to today, this first service. And that's not a word we use a lot, like ministered to. And I think about when Jesus was fasting for 40 days and he had the, kind of the battle with Satan, and then the angels came, and it says they ministered to Jesus. So what did they do? They strengthened him. They gave him sustenance. They gave him what he needed to get back on his feet. And to be honest with you, that's what church was for me today in the first service. Through the songs, through the speaking up here, just through the whole time, it just ministered to me. And so I'm hoping that's the same for you. And over the years, I've tried to always on Mother's Day and Father's Day and days like that, really recognize those who this may not be an easy day for you. You've lost mom or you've lost a child or whatever the case may be. And so I've always said that man, we're praying for you today. But today I can empathize with that. I understand what it means to walk in those shoes. And so I am truly praying for you if this is not an easy day for you. And if it's not, then I have some words of encouragement for you. Bier lahai roy. And all my Baptists got a little bit scared there. It's all right. It's okay. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about what that means. And I think it's fitting for Mother's Day to ask the question, have you ever felt invisible? Have you ever felt like no one understands, no one sees you, and what you're doing just doesn't matter? And I think just in living life and talking to people that moms can definitely feel that way. I'm not saying that dads can't or anything like that, but I do think that moms take on an emotional portion of raising kids in the home and some of those things that we as guys don't completely understand. And so maybe you're at that place right now in your life where as a mom, you just kind of feel like you're invisible, like no one sees what I'm doing, and it really wouldn't even matter if I wasn't here. And maybe you're on the mountaintop right now, man. Maybe your kids made you macaroni necklaces and they came and told you how nicely pressed their linens are and whatever, and like you're just feeling good today. Whatever the case, God is here with you. And I know that at times in our lives, everyone experiences that feeling of just I'm invisible. No one knows me, no one understands me. And so you've either went through that or you're going to go through it at some point. I know in our middle school and high school years, we tend to go through those things. No one understands me. You don't get me. No one sees me. I certainly walked through that as we're trying to find ourselves. And then I think as we go on through life, we have these seasons where it's like, man, I don't think anybody cares. And so if you're there, like I said, I have some encouraging words for you, Be'er Lahai Roy. And we're going to find out what that means. And to do that, we're going to go to Genesis chapter 16. And now, this is Old Testament, all right? And what you have to keep in mind is that their customs, their laws, the things that they did, their culture was just different from ours. So there's going to be some different stuff that seems a little weird to us today. But basically what has happened is Abraham has been given the promise that he's going to be the father of many nations, right? Father Abraham had many sons had Father Abraham. He's been given this promise that his descendants are going to be as numerous as the stars. The problem is he's 85 years old and still has no child. Now, they lived a lot longer than we did. He was 175 when he died. But still, 85 years into it and no child, you can understand that they're probably getting a little frustrated. Now, in Genesis chapter 16, they're still called Abram and Sarai, right? Their names are eventually changed to Abraham and Sarah. But as we read this, you're going to see Abram and Sarai, same people. And so here we have kind of the table. They've been given this big promise, yet it hasn't come true. And so in Genesis chapter 16, we catch up here and it says, now Sarai, Abram's wife, had not been able to bear children for him, but she had an Egyptian servant named Hagar. So Sarai said to Abram, the Lord has prevented me from having children. Go and sleep with my servant. Perhaps I can have children through her. And Abram agreed with Sarai's proposal. So Sarai, Abram's wife, took Hagar, the Egyptian servant, and gave her to Abram as a wife. This happened 10 years after Abram had settled in the land of Canaan. So Abram had sexual relations with Hagar, and she became pregnant. Okay, so let's pause there. So again, different time. This seems a little weird to us. You could probably get arrested for some of this stuff right nowadays. So when we read these things, it's a little bit weird, but you have to understand this was the custom of the time. As a matter of fact, they have old ancient contracts for marriage where it's actually, if they couldn't get pregnant, it's actually in the contract as to who could be the surrogate mother, basically. And so this was pretty common back in this day, in this culture. And so it wouldn't be that out of bounds or that weird for Sarai to suggest this. And so she has this plan, and it comes about, and you would think, hey, everything's good, exactly like they planned it, right? The plan worked perfectly, everything's great, right? Wrong. Spoiler alert, it's never good to do things on your own before God's timing. And I'll just tell you right now, we're going to see in this story what happens when we try to take and we try to make it our plan and we try to do what we think should be done when God hasn't said go yet. And so if you're in a season and you're praying and you're waiting, this may speak to you. And if you're in a season of feeling lost, this may speak to you today. And so the plan happens and she gets pregnant. And continue here in verse 4, and it says, but when Hagar knew she was pregnant, she began to treat her mistress or her owner or whatever you want to call it, Sarai, with contempt. Then Sarai said to Abram, this is all your fault. I don't have time to get into that today. We're not going to talk about that. Not the right thing today. I put my servant into your arms, but now that she's pregnant, she treats me with contempt. The Lord will show who's wrong, you or me. And Abram replied, look, she is your servant, so deal with her as you see fit. Then Sarai treated Hagar so harshly that she finally ran away. Now, we don't have all the details to this story, but I imagine there was some jealousy, there was some frustration, there was some inner workings there that just weren't lining up. And this goes back to, this is what happens when we try to do things on our own. When we don't wait for God's timing, when we think we have a better plan than God. And I'm sure that Sarai, after not being able to conceive for probably 60 years at this point, was a little bit frustrated that Hagar was able to do it. And Abram was probably being a little bit nicer to Hagar because she has this child, right? And so I can't imagine the dynamics that were going on at this point. Here you have a servant girl who's now a wife, and it's going to be frustrating. Again, we cannot do things until God says it's time. And it's never going to work out the way that we want it to until we wait on God. His ways are higher than our ways. And I would just say right now, if you're in a moment where you're waiting to hear from God, keep waiting. Keep waiting. It's in His perfect timing, and that doesn't always match up with ours. But I promise you, it's always perfect. He always knows. People can be dead, and He can come back and be like, no, they're not dead. I just had some other stuff to do. It's fine. That's what He does. That's His timing. And so for whatever reason, with the dynamics of what was happening, Sarai is so harsh with Hagar that she decides to run away. Now, let's follow back up just a little bit here as she's running away in verse 7. And it says, as she ran away, the angel of the Lord found Hagar beside a spring of water in the wilderness along the road to Shur. The angel said to her, Hagar, Sarai's servant, where have you come from and where are you going? I'm running away from my mistress, Sarai, she replied. So here we see where Hagar is at. And we know as an Egyptian slave that she's probably headed back to Egypt at this point. And by the spring that they mention here, we know that she's probably 70 miles away from where she had been. Now, they didn't have Greyhound. They didn't have, planes. They didn't have anything. She's pregnant, walking by herself, that doesn't mention anyone else in the story, through rough terrain, mountains and all kinds of things for 70 miles. And so at this point, this pregnant slave girl has been on her feet walking for about a week now. You talk about feeling alone. You talk about feeling isolated. You talk about feeling like no one knows you. No one gets the pain that you're walking through. Think about her life. Now, slavery was different back then, and I'm not making excuses, but it's different from what we experience today. But at some point, she left her home to go be a servant for somebody else. This was her life. So she woke up every day serving in some capacity these people who were over her. And then one day they come and say, hey, we need your help. We can't have a baby. Can you do it? And she does what they ask her to do, and then she takes the blame for it. Talk about a raw deal. Talk about a bad hand, right? So bad so that she decides it's better for me to walk alone pregnant through this rough terrain, through the mountains and the thorn bushes and everything else I'm going to encounter to get back home. And I'm sure there were moments she wanted to give up. And I'm sure there are moments when she just cried uncontrollably. And I know that she felt alone. And I know that she felt like no one saw her. And I just want to say today, I know there are people sitting in this room right now who feel exactly that way. Lost, alone, no one cares. And yes, I think moms get there. But the truth is, guys are the same way. We just don't admit it. There's moments in our life when we feel lost. There's moments in our life when we feel like no one notices, when we could just disappear and no one would care. This is exactly where Hagar was at. You ever felt like that? Like you've just been given a bad hand? Like, God, do you even see the stuff that I'm going through? And it's just one thing to the next thing. She crossed one mountain, guess what was waiting? Another mountain. You ever felt that when it's like, God, why is it the next thing after the next thing after the next thing? Do you even see what's happening? And maybe you're there right now. Or maybe you've walked through that recently and you know what that looks like. Or maybe at some point in your life you're going to walk through that. It would be pretty bummer of a message if it was like, well, yeah, that's the stuff that happens. So, man, good luck. Hope that all works out, right? But we have Be'er Lahai Roy. What is that? What does that mean? Well, let's look at the rest of Hagar's story to see. So this angel has come to her and asked her where she came from. And it says in verse 9, the angel of the Lord said to her, return to your mistress and submit to her authority. Go back to what you thought was the problem. Then he added, I will give you more descendants than you can count. It gives her the same blessing that he gave to Abraham. And the angel also said, you are now pregnant and will give birth to a son. You are to name him Ishmael, which means God hears. For the Lord has heard your cry of distress. This son of yours will be a wild man. Every mom likes to hear that. As untamed as a wild donkey. Thank you. That sounds incredible. He will raise his fist against everyone, and everyone will be against him. Yes, he will live in open hostility against all his relatives. Now, we don't have time to jump into that today. This is unfortunately the curse that came along with the blessing. And if you know the story of Ishmael and Isaac, if you want to know all about the Middle East and why everything's going on, you can trace it all back to this decision that was made right here. That whenever we put ourselves in God's place, that things happen. And this is where kind of everything took place, and that's a story for another time. But inside of this blessing is also this curse, but he tells her, hey, you're going to name him Ishmael because God hears you. And it says, thereafter, Hagar used another name to refer to the Lord who had spoken to her. She said, you are the God who sees me. She also said, have I truly seen the one who sees me? So that well was named Be'er Lahai Roy, which means well of the living one who sees me. And it can still be found between Kadesh and Bered. So Hagar gave Abram a son, and Abram named him Ishmael. Abram was 86 years old when Ishmael was born. Yeah, imagine having a kid at 86. Hagar felt unnoticed, unloved, unknown. No one saw me. And the living one, she encountered the living one. She said, no, if no one else sees me, God sees me. Be'er Lahai Roy, God sees me. And I just want to say today, for the single mom, God sees you. For the mom who's grieving today, maybe over something that happened a long time ago, God sees you. For the couple trying to get pregnant, it's taken a long time, God sees you. For the couple who's just trying to stay together, trying to hold the pieces of your marriage together, God sees you. For the dad who feels disconnected from his family, God sees you. For the parents who's so stressed that he or she doesn't know how they're going to get up tomorrow, God sees you. For the teen who feels alone and like no one understands them, God sees you. For the one who's caught up in addiction and just can't break free, God sees you. For the one who just can't feel God right now and is wondering if he's even real, God sees you. For the one waiting on an answer to prayer and they've been waiting for a long time, God sees you. He sees you in your highs. He sees you in your lows. He's there in the triumph. He's there in the pain. He's there in the mourning. He's there in the dancing. He sees you. And the truth is, he allows us to walk through some pain because he knows that we need to be tough. He knows that we need to be refined. He knows that we need to be stronger. He knows that we're going to walk through pain in this life, but he never leaves us. He was always with Hagar from the beginning of her being taken out of Egypt to the time that she's there in the desert. He never left. He saw her. He's always there. The thing that we have to ask is, are we going to allow him to be the God who sees us? He's always there. He'll use your pain, I promise. We have to allow him to do it. You're walking through things that some other people haven't walked through, that they can't understand. Like I said, I've always said at the beginning of messages for Happy Mother's Day, hey, I want to recognize those who this is a difficult day. And I promise you, I meant that in sincerity, but I understand it a whole lot more today than I did any other day. I can empathize with you. And I know that God sees me. God sees you right where you're at. And he wants to take you through it, but sometimes through it is back to the pain. What did the angel say? Oh, it's good, keep going. Go back to Sarai. Not only go back to Sarai, go back and be a servant. Go back to what you think is the pain because it's going to make you a better person than you ever thought. That's upside down living. That's counterculture, I get it. But we've got a couple of options. This pain is terrible. Hope I can get through it. Or I believe in the God who sees me right where I'm at, and I'm going to trust him with this pain. I'm going to trust that he can make good out of anything, that his word is true, that he can turn anything to good, and he will. It just may not look the way we think it should, and it may not be in the time that we think it should. But you've walked through things in your life that now someone else who walks through it, you can understand and empathize with them. Some of you have lost a child. I don't know what that feels like, but you do, and you can empathize with somebody. You can talk with them about it, and you can minister to them. We just have to allow and believe that he is the God who sees us regardless of our situation. He rejoices with you when great things happen. But I feel like when we get to the mountaintop, we're like, yeah, God's here because I'm closer to him now. God's just as close in the valley, I promise you. And maybe even closer, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will not fear because my God is with me. Right. And some of you are walking through the valley and you think that God is distant. No, he's closer than ever. He's helping you walk through it. It just may take some time. We live in a broken world, and we're on this side of perfection, this side of eternity, and one day we're going to taste that and it's going to be beautiful. But for now, what we have is the promise that the God who sees us, that knows us, walks with us. That's a much better way to live life and go through pain. I promise you. And so I don't know what you're going through. I don't know what pain you're encountering. And today, I think it's just about ministering, just about, the God who sees us being here with us in this moment. And I know for me today, it's exactly what I needed. And so I'm praying that God would minister to you. And I thought this morning when I got up of Matthew 10:29, and I just want to read this because I think it speaks so well to what we're talking about. It says, Jesus said this, "What is the price of 2 sparrows? 1 copper coin? But not a single sparrow can fall to the ground without your Father knowing it. And the very hairs on your head are all numbered. So don't be afraid. You are more valuable to God than a whole flock of sparrows." God sees you through the parenting difficulties, for the things that you didn't plan on happening in your life, for the things you didn't ask for the bad hand that you were dealt that you had no say in. God sees it. Now, he didn't cause it, but he's willing to use it and walk through the pain with you, and you come out so much better on the other end. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, Hananiah, Azariah, Mishael, they had to go into the fire. Where was God? Right there with them. Those boys came out stronger than ever when they came out of that fire. God never left them. He saw them, but they had to walk through the fire. And sometimes we got to go back to that pain and back to that hurt to be healed from it. God's with us every step of the way. I don't know your unique story, but God does. God walked every hurt that we walked. He saw a son being lost. He saw his children walking away from him. He experienced every pain that we did, so he can sympathize and empathize with everything you're going through if you will allow him. He's the God who sees you. I came across this story by Nicole Johnson. It was written about a lady that she encountered, and it's about moms, and so I get that I'm not a mom, and I don't fully understand everything that you guys go through, and so I thought that the story was so fitting because maybe as a mom you're sitting here today and you have that feeling of I feel invisible sometimes. I feel like I don't matter, and if that's you, I think this story will speak heavy to you. And I'll be honest, even as a dad, this story spoke to me. And so, again, it's called I'm Invisible by Nicole Johnson. It says, it all began to make sense. The blank stares, the lack of response, the way one of the kids will walk into the room while I'm on the phone and ask to be taken to the store. Inside, I'm thinking, can't you see I'm on the phone? Obviously not. No one can see me if I'm on the phone or cooking or sweeping the floor, or even standing on my head in the corner, because no one can see me at all. I'm invisible. Some days I'm only a pair of hands, nothing more. Can you fix this? Can you tie this? Can you open this? Some days I'm not a pair of hands. I'm not even a human being. I'm just a clock. What time is it? I'm a satellite guide to answer. What number is the Disney Channel? I'm a car to order right around 5:30, please. I was certain that these were the hands that once held books and the eyes that studied history and the mind that graduated summa cum laude. But now they have disappeared into the peanut butter, never to be seen again. She's going, she's gone. One night, a group of us were having dinner celebrating the return of our friend from England. Janice had gotten back from a fabulous trip, and she was going on and on about the hotel she stayed in. I was sitting there looking around at all the others, all put together so well. It was hard not to compare and feel sorry for myself as I looked down at my out-of-style dress. It was the only thing I could find that was clean. My unwashed hair was pulled up in a clip, and I was afraid I could actually smell peanut butter in it. I was feeling pretty pathetic when Janice turned to me with a beautifully wrapped package and said, I bought you this. It was a book on the great cathedrals of Rome. I wasn't exactly sure why she'd given it to me until I read her inscription. To Charlotte, with admiration for the of what you are building when no one sees. In the days ahead, I would read, devour the book, and I would discover what would become, for me, 4 life-changing truths after which I would pattern my work. 1, no one can say who built the great cathedrals. We have no record of their names. 2, these builders gave their whole lives for a work they would never see finished. 3, they made great sacrifices and expected no credit. 4, the passion of their building was fueled by their faith that the eyes of God saw everything. A legendary story in the book told of a rich man who came to visit the cathedral while it was being built. He saw a workman carving a tiny bird on the inside of a beam. He was puzzled and asked the man, why are you spending so much time carving that bird into a beam that will be covered by the roof? No one will ever see it. And the workman replied, because God sees it. I closed the book feeling the missing piece fall into place. It was almost if I heard God whispering to me, I see you, Charlotte. I see the sacrifices you make every day, even when no one around you does. No act of kindness you've done, no sequins you sewed on, no cupcake you've baked is too small for me to notice and smile over. You are building a great cathedral, but you can't see right now what it will become. At times, my invisibility felt like an affliction, but it is not a disease that is erasing my life. It is a cure for the disease of my own self-centeredness. It is the antidote to my strong, stubborn pride. I keep the right perspective when I see myself as a great builder, as one of the people who show up at a job that they will never see finished, to work on something that their name will never be on. The writer of the book went so far as to say that no cathedrals could ever be built in our lifetime because there are so few people willing to sacrifice to that degree. When I really think about it, I don't want my son to tell the friend he brings home from college for Thanksgiving, my mom gets up at 4 a.m. and bakes homemade pies, and then she hand-bastes the turkey for 3 hours and presses all the linens for the table. That would mean I built a shrine or a monument to myself. I just want him to want to come home. And then if there's anything more to say to his friend, to add, you're going to love it there. As mothers, we are building great cathedrals. We cannot be seen if we're doing it right. And one day it is very possible that the world will marvel, not only at what we have built, but at the beauty that has been added to the world by the sacrifices of invisible women. And I read that, and I couldn't help but think about my mom. The sacrifices I know that she made, and she didn't always get it right. My mom dealt with a lot in her life. She lost her mom when she was 12. But she loved us well. And she couldn't have known what she was building at the time. I look at my brothers and my sister and the lives that we've made, and I get to stand on a stage and say, well done, Mom. You built a great cathedral. And not that I'm great or anything like that, but it's a place that God lives. And that's the most important thing that we can do. And I don't like getting emotional. I actually hate it, but I have learned to step into that and to allow God to let me feel whatever I'm feeling. And today I'm sad, and I miss my mom, but I know that God sees me, and I know he's walking through it with me. And so moms out there, maybe you feel this today. Maybe you feel a little burnout, a little worn down, like no one understands you. And the truth is, I can't. I understand as a dad can understand of what I've seen from my wife and from my mom, but I can't fully understand. But God does. He sees you, no matter where you're at, no matter what your situation is. He sees you, and he knows you, he loves you, and he's walking through it with you. And he's writing a great story. And you may not even know the end of the story. You may never know exactly how this all turns out. But our job is just to build and to allow God to do what only he can do. And so my hope is that no matter what you're walking through or what you will walk through, Bier Lahai Roy, that he is the living one, the God who sees you, and that we can hold on to that in those moments. And, you know, I wondered for today, like how I don't want it to be a bummer. I don't want it to be, and I hope for some of you today, man, I hope that you go home and your kids go nuts and they do all kinds of crazy things for you, and they come up to you and tell you how well you do everything. But I know for some of you it's going to be a difficult day, and I just wanted God to minister to us today. And sometimes that's okay. And so I'm so grateful for you guys as my family, the way that you've ministered to me. And I know that God will do the same. He's the God who sees you no matter what you're going through. Let me pray over us today. Father, thank you for your truth, for your love, that in moments that are painful, that you are right there. You're actually the one who sticks closer than a brother. And so I just pray today that for those who are walking through a difficult time right now, that they would hold on to the truth, that you're the one who sees us and knows us. That you're not a distant God, that you're not this being out in the cosmos that really doesn't care, but you truly do care about your children. And today I'm so grateful for moms and the special love that only they can bring. And that's not to take anything away from dads, but there's something about moms. And so today I'm thankful for the mom that I have. And although it hurts today, I'm so grateful for the memories and for the way she built so well. And I pray for those that are walking through that same story with me, that you would just minister to them today. And for those that are celebrating today, I pray that today would be a special day, that they would just feel loved and cherished the way that they are. But God, I'm praying for the one who understands everything we go through. I'm praying that you alone would give us what we need today. That you're laughing with us, that you're mourning with us, that you're dancing with us. So thank you for being that close. May we trust in you. And may we trust that you can turn our pain to good, because you're the God who sees. Pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
Once again, thank you for stopping by today. We'd love for you to be a part of our family at one of our services at 9 or 11 on Sunday. You can find out all of our information at simplechurchtulsa.com. And we'd love to pray for you any way we can. So please message us, and we hope you have a great week.